Hello and welcome back to Rev Real Estate School. I'm your host, Michael Montgomery, and today we're joined with Jeff again. How you doing?
Good, Mike. Glad to be back.
Happy New
yeah,
Year.
doing really well. Happy New Year to you. Yeah. How was your holidays? Good?
It was good. It was relaxing. There's always going to be work that goes on, but like you got to find time. Even in real estate, you have to find time to just step away from this career. And I was slow to respond to emails purposefully just because you just need like that mental separation, which in real estate, we tend to not get that frequently, right?
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully you got a few days to step back. I know I got a few days after Christmas, more so.
That's good. Yeah.
Things were...
I spent New Year's in Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah, I went to an amazing concert there. My wife and I, we don't agree on a lot of music, but there's this one guy that we agree on. We agree like wholeheartedly. And he's playing a New Year's Eve show. So we went down to it, but absolutely loved Kentucky. And like the people there are so nice. Like they're just so, maybe it's kind of like the Southern feel, but so nice and so welcoming. So we had a great time.
That's great. Great stuff. Yeah.
So today we are jumping into the wonderful world of CRMs, and I think that there's a lot that can really be unpacked and discussed here. But we were even just talking right before we jumped on about, generally speaking, when I'm talking to an agent about a CRM, there's almost this cringy feel. There's this kind of internal cringy feel around how do we actually approach this concept of the CRM. We all know the value of them, but there's a lot of hurdles which we're going to get into today. But what are some of your overall reflections when you start thinking through the use of a CRM as an agent?
So for me, it was kind of one of the very first things that really had to be set up. I think it's one of the most critical and overlooked tools for a new agent when they first start in real estate. Knowing and having in front of you all the people in your sphere, and that could be 5 people, or that could be 500 people. Maybe you've come from a background in another profession and you've got a huge number of people in your network. It's a nice clear snapshot to see who those people are. So for me, yeah, it was basically the first tool that I felt was the most necessary in starting my career.
Even as a new agent and I'm playing devil's advocate here, I totally agree with you 110%. But what made you want to do that as a new agent? Maybe you're not dealing with that many folks. What prompted you to be like, hey, this is a tool that I need to invest in?
Excuse me. When I started letting people know that I was in real estate, it was important for me to record who was engaging with me and who was responding to the fact that I was now in real estate. So my CRM, my CRM in quotes, was very simple. It was, I spoke to this person and they mentioned this. They mentioned their brother may be looking to buy. They mentioned that they were excited I was in real estate and they may be looking to buy. So it was just a way to track the few people that I knew, how they were engaging with my newfound sort of career in real estate. And that was important because then it allowed me to follow up. Whatever that looked like, it was super rudimentary, but it allowed me to follow up in some very minute ways right off the bat with people that I knew.
Totally. Yeah. And the place my mind's going is a couple of things here. And first off, generally when I start to look at like an agent with a CRM versus an agent without a CRM, the agent with the CRM always outsells the agent without one. And it's almost like you have the agent who has the CRM who is going to sell more real estate. Like if you have end use a CRM, I should have prefaced it with end use, the CRM, you're going to sell more real estate than if you don't. And that's simply because you're going to know who to follow up with and when. But of course we have to use the tool as well. But there's this kind of underlying anxiety I find with agents once they have a CRM. And it comes from 2 places a lot of times. Sometimes agents say, it's almost too overwhelming. Like they see all of the follow-ups they need to do and they're not doing them. So they close the CRM and don't open it again for another 6 months because they think that that's kind of just going to let the problem solve itself. And then the second issue is if you're doing a lot of online lead gen, sometimes they'll say like, how many people do you have in your CRM? And I'll hear like 9,000. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if that's not segmented appropriately, wildly overwhelming. You're going to open that thing up and you're just going to be like, where do I even start? I don't know any of these people. And you just get this sense of, you just get this anxiety, I find, around the CRM if we're not maintaining it over time. But the agents with the CRMs will always outsell those that don't.
Yeah, and I think, what you're highlighting, I think, is the difference between allowing your CRM to run your life and you running your CRM, right? So the CRM itself can provide you with a trillion tools. I mean, there's tools in my CRM that I haven't even touched. But or you can allow it to basically say, yeah, pumping leads and pumping things into there that aren't valuable, allowing it to run you and make you anxious. Or you can take control of it and say, these are the portions of it that are super important to me, and that's what I'm going to focus on. And that does take that takes extra effort, it takes extra work, but I think that's why it translates into more sales, more confidence, and so on.
Totally agree. And I think because there's so many fields in a CRM at times, it can get a little overwhelming for an agent. And they try to capture everything on everybody. And there's like an imperfect CRM and a partially filled out client record is so much better than not putting the client in there at all. And the other piece to it that I think happens is agents then get a reminder to follow up with somebody. So, hey, I'm supposed to follow up with Jeff, but hey, I don't know what to say to Jeff. So now I get anxious and I start to worry that, okay, I'm supposed to follow up with Jeff because that's my CRM says, but I don't know what to say. And one little trick that I've done in this case, there's a couple of things. The first thing is when it pops up that I'm supposed to follow up with Jeff, this is just me personally, so nobody has to necessarily use this. It's just if it works for them. I then take Jeff and I put you in my to-do list for the week. And then at some point in time throughout the week, something's going to jog my memory to reach out to you. It almost always happens. I just move you from there into my to-do list. And then I check you off at some point in time that week when I've actually followed up with that given individual. And the second thing that I do is within the CRM, instead of just having all of the basic records, the one field that my eyes always go to is the one that I call triggers. And triggers, we've talked about this before, but it's just a custom field that I've added, and it's basically things that are interesting to that individual. So if I know Jeff is into riding his motorcycle and CrossFit, and Jeff's, having his firstborn child coming up here pretty soon, all of these things go into this just open field called triggers. And it's just remarkable how powerful that is. I land on your record, I read through that, and before you know it, I have some sort of idea and some sort of reason to reach out to you that is something that's interesting to you, and not just me being like, hey, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell?
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I think it's, as much as we want to be top of mind to our clients, we have to make sure that our clients are top of our mind. And I think that that's what a CRM does, is it says, follow up with Jeff or follow with Mike or whatever. How and when and what is maybe you could argue secondary to the fact that now they're on your mind. You're going to put them in a to-do list, or it's a birthday. You're going to make a note to send them a card, or you're going to do whatever it is that is personalized for your business. But the main thing is it's top of mind. And this is where I think a lot of agents who have, like, I know a number of agents that have been in the industry far longer than I have that don't have a CRM, and they forget about their clients just as much as their clients forget about them. And so someone's got to initiate that, and we're the ones being paid. It should be us, I believe. And so I think that's where the tool is most helpful, at least at the outset. Yeah.
Totally. And, even when you said a couple of things there, like if we're thinking of ways that we want to reach out to people, you have such things in yours. You mentioned birthdays, like home anniversaries. These ones seem like quite obvious reasons to reach out. And I think we always have the intention, especially just after a closing, because we're so close with that individual. We feel like, because we've just shown them a million homes and we've been through all the process. So we tell ourselves mistakenly that we're not going to fall out of touch with this client. We're not going to, because we had such great rapport during this whole process. Our friendship is just going to continue on, and it doesn't. It fizzles. And we have opportunities like birthdays and anniversaries to reach out. When it comes to birthdays, this strategy I absolutely love. I got it from a lawyer of ours, and it's such a great way to reach out around a birthday time. What he would do is, instead of reaching out on the birthday, because they're getting inundated with calls and messages, and we might kind of get lost in all of that, he calls the day before the birthday and he says, "Hey, just wanted to wish you happy birthday before all the madness begins tomorrow." And such a cool way to really make your mark when it comes to wishing somebody a happy birthday and being memorable with it versus just sending that text that they're going to get however many of them that day. I just love that these small little
really
ways.
good.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that for sure. That's really
solid.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've remembered it, for years and years. So I'm like, that is, I mean, A, being in real estate, I thought that was a good strategy, but B, I remember every year that he would call because he would call the day before. It was just fantastic.
Right.
It's such a cool idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, that's the thing is I think what you hit on is a lot of the simplicity around what we can do. I mean, these tools, and we can get into that a little bit, but these tools are so advanced nowadays. I know I test drove a number of them before choosing my own, but they offer so much. But I think it's just starting with the simple things, the very important dates, the sale anniversaries, the birthdays, the anniversaries. And, if we're talking about sort of putting this information into a CRM, most of this information is available on their Facebook or on their social media for free. Even if your friends are not, you can generally see their basic info like birthdays or whatever. Mostly it's a birthday or an anniversary of some kind. And this is gold. It doesn't take a lot of additional effort, and the information is available. It's there.
That's a good point. Like, even if you haven't transacted with them and seen their ID, which has their birthday on it, there's other ways of getting this. And it comes across as you go in the extra mile. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about setting up and maybe even our own CRMs and what we've selected. But one thing that I think you touched on that's an important point, I see it all the time, is I do think one needs to segment their CRM appropriately, but I don't think that needs to be wildly complex. And sometimes when I'm going through an agent CRM, the complexity of it honestly almost gives me an aneurysm. Like, you're looking at it and you're looking at, they've segmented, A, B, C, D for all of these. And then they get so confused as to where to put the client. And I will mention, we'll actually put this into the show notes as well. We have this free CRM. It's just built on Notion. So anybody who uses Notion probably has an understanding of how the tool works. We just built out a very simplistic one. So if you don't have one, it's totally free. It's not perfect by any means because it's built on a separate tool called Notion. It's not actually a CRM, but you can start with that, and and those are the exact fields that I use that are within there, and the exact stages that I move people through. And there's like, even between like a lead all the way to closed and then following up with them, there's like 10, maybe even fewer potential stages where people can be. And that even includes those folks that find their way into the trash. And the trash for me is like, I don't want to transact with you again. But how do you approach this concept of complexity behind the CRM?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to segment them, to categorize clients. I think that's important. So the way I sort of do it, and I'm still playing around with mine a little bit, but the way I've kind of done it is I've got clients in actually the letter grade. So A, B, C, and D. D would be we haven't transacted at all. And C and B are almost the same. I kind of blend the two. I maybe done one deal with them, and that was it. A clients are I've done at least 2 deals or more. Or they were just incredibly memorable. Maybe it was just a single deal, but it was a very large deal. So something memorable that way. So I try to keep from A to D. I can kind of keep things separated. I would say my CRM isn't the greatest at doing that. One of the ways I think I'm going to start to segment my clients is by hashtags, actually. So I can group a whole section and have just a hashtag saying, whether it's group A or whatever, and then have just maybe just 2 categories rather than the 4, with the 4 letters. And then of course,
4 letters are people that aren't transacting right now, I'm guessing, right? Not, like, those people wouldn't be transacting at this point.
No, that's right.
And then, so how does with the 4 segments, how often do you follow up with each? So I guess what's the purpose behind the 4? And I'm assuming it's you follow up with them in a different capacity, or there's different levels of touch points that you have with them. So how do you think through that with your 4 groups that aren't transacting?
So they're on an automated So every quarter I'm either sending them a quick message saying, hey, it's been a while, hope you guys are doing well. It can be very simple, but it's a touch point.
Is that all four? Sorry to
That's all
interrupt.
four.
Okay.
That's no, sorry. That's just for transacted clients. That's just for transacted clients.
Okay.
Whether it was 1 or 4 or 5
Got it.
transactions, they're getting a quarterly touch point, along with, and then but everybody will get birthday. Everybody will get birthday, and then I have a different campaign for mailouts for all the clients in the database. But for the ones that have transacted specifically, it's a quarterly touch on your purchase or anniversary dates, your birthdays, your anniversaries. There's what's built in there too, I believe, is a 5-year and a 10-year touch point as well, a reminder. So that's in there. And that's basically the extent of what my CRM is doing as far as digital touch points. And then I have mail campaigns throughout the year that go out to those clients, but it's not indicated in my CRM. That's just a separate plan.
Got it. Okay, not to go too far into the details right now, but when you with your quarterly touch points, so 4 throughout the year, is one of those birthday and one of those anniversary, or are those separate? So do you have four separate touch points plus the birthday and anniversary?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, those are in addition to birthday, anniversary. Yeah.
No wonder you scaled your business so rapidly into such a high level. That's fantastic. I've always had that's given me anxiety, and I have to say why. Because if I had to follow up with everybody every single quarter, I know I wouldn't do it, and then I would have this long list of people that I haven't followed up with, and this has happened to me. And I'm like, Mike, you should. And then you start beating yourself up, and you're like, oh, I'm not being a good agent. I need to be following up with these people more frequently, and you start to have all of these repeating thoughts. So I segment mine basically into would be close friends, or I would call them super connectors. So these are either people that would do a lot of referrals, or they're just people who know a lot of people. And so I call those super connectors. That's once every 60 days. Then I have my A, which is once every 90 days, so quarterly. And then I have B, which is once every 180 days. And frankly, most would probably sit in 180 days, but maybe that could just be because I'm not transacting as much these days, but that just helps me because I know, look, I'm putting this person in here and I know I'm not going to be able to reach out to you every 2 months. I know that's not going to happen. And we got to be honest with ourselves about that too.
Yeah. And some of those quarterly touches are very simple with certain clients, and some of them are a little bit more involved. It just depends. But I think it really comes back to the idea that what is a CRM, right? CRM is a customer relationship management, right? And this is my passion, right? So you need a relationship with people, and in order to do that, you have to keep in touch with people. You have to make it a priority, whether it's a quick text or it's a lengthy phone call. It doesn't really matter. That's up to your discretion. You have to be in front of people, and your CRM reminds you to do that. I mean, that is the bare bones what we are trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, because you're taking a step back from this like technology and thinking about it in the way that you do so well, which is the relationship side of everything real estate. Like, what is this actually doing? And I think a lot of times with technology and the shiny object, this one looks cool, this one does these sort of features, and really we need to get at the heart of what a CRM is doing, and it's improving, strengthening, and building our relationships. That's really what it's for.
And you're right. You can't look at a CRM and say, oh, it's got the best drip campaign, which is going to bring me X amount of deals. It's not. Maybe it will, but that's not the point, and that's not the goal behind leveraging a CRM. The goal behind leveraging a CRM is to build relationships with people so that they will not forget about you, so that they will transact with you over and over for a lifetime. That is the goal. Yeah.
You know what else you're touching on here? Like, I don't have anything against certain use cases for drip campaigns, but if I've transacted with somebody outside of an email newsletter, like a drip campaign to somebody who I've already transacted with, I tend to really steer clear of that. I want, now that I know the individual, there has to be some reason for me to reach out. And holy smokes, we all know when it's a drip campaign. Everyone knows the little trick too, which is sent from my iPhone, which was like really popular back in like 2016. And I mean, it is an interesting, cool idea where they put that sent from my iPhone in the email signature to kind of showcase that it was sent from the phone, but we all know it. Like, and even in like the URL, and there's always an unsubscribe link, and you're just kind of like, if you come across as disingenuous with something like that, you could lose a past client. They could be actually gone pretty quickly. So I'm pretty careful, I would say, when it's a past client using drip campaigns. Generally, a drip campaign for me is only used with somebody who I haven't had a two-way conversation with.
Yeah, and like for example, like I don't even use them. I don't use drip campaigns. I find they're too generic. I'm just a little bit more hands-on, and I think that as you scale, I think those tools are good. I think sometimes it depends on what's your goal. If your goal is to just do a lot of volume and not really, pump a lot of effort into that relationship piece, that's fine. But I don't know if that's sustainable.
No.
Yeah, so it
also depends, I would say, on lead gen. Like if you have 5-6 leads coming in per day or more, you have to use drip campaigns in order to generate a response. But drip campaigns to me should always be secondary. Like if I cannot literally follow up with this many people in a one-to-one capacity, I just do not have time to do that. You can leverage drip campaigns at that point in time, but don't lead with drip campaigns. Like use drip campaigns only if you absolutely have to, because your conversion's always going to be so much higher when it's any sort of one-to-one reach out, even if that is an email where it's, hey, Jeff, and I'm mentioning something personal about you. That conversion's always going to be just light years ahead of somebody who's just using some generic drip campaign.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about our CRMs. And the reason I thought it might be useful is because, I mean, I've tried so many of them out there, and there's realistically, I haven't found one that does everything perfectly for me. And I say for me because everyone has their own needs when it comes to a CRM. So I currently use Follow Up Boss, and there's pros and there's cons to Follow Up Boss. Follow Up Boss is fantastic when it comes to online lead gen and when it comes to these drip campaigns, when it comes to integrations. It's really good at that. The segmentation, I don't love on it. So it is a little bit more challenging when it comes to segmenting people. I find that's just me. And then there's just the cost of it too, which is just, it's a higher cost CRM, which if you're not going to be in that CRM using it all the time, you probably don't need all the bells and whistles associated with Follow Up Boss. So I think that there's a lot of pros to it. And I mean, it was just acquired by Zillow for a massive amount too. And the last one that was the last acquisition, this was before you were in real estate, but there was this CRM called Contactually. And it was a really cool CRM. And basically it gave you a rating, like an ABCD rating based on how in touch you were with your database. And so that was really, really cool. And a lot of folks loved it. It was a great CRM. I loved it. And then Compass acquired it. And then I think Compass integrated into just solely their system. And so sometimes when these acquisitions occur, then I'm not saying that will happen in this case with Follow Up Boss with the Zillow acquisition, but it very likely and easily could happen where they start to deprioritize their, our users. Although I feel like Zillow probably acquired it more from a financial standpoint than wanting to integrate it into their systems. But tell me a little bit about yours.
Yeah, so like I think I mentioned earlier, I test drove a bunch of different ones. I think it's important. Thankfully, a lot of these companies will, let you download some sample version and play around with it. I think the two most important things for me was the interface, like ease of use, and follow-up capabilities, basically. I found that
what do you mean by, sorry to interrupt, follow-up capabilities?
So workflows, and so having some of these things automated, in the sense that it would remind me of the birthdays, the anniversaries. Once I put the data in, it would remind me of these things on a calendar that was synced with my Google Calendar. So following up with client database. But I think that, and as we're talking, as I'm thinking about my own CRM, I think one of the biggest reasons why I went with it is because it is just so easy to use. Like, it's so easy to input information. I think if you get too complicated a CRM, it's going to dishearten you to even open the thing up. So if it's not like simple and user friendly right from the word go, even if it's like the most popular one on the market, you're not going to use it, which defeats the whole purpose. So get one that, and I mean, it could be as trivial as, does it look good? Because if it doesn't
Hey,
look good, like you're not
that's
going to want to look
important.
at it. It
Yeah,
is. I just think,
the UI and UX of it, I don't
yeah.
think we should downplay it because there's a couple that I really like the functionality, but I can't even look at it. It hurts my
No,
eyes.
no, exactly. And there was a number of them like that. I thought the dashboard is way too complicated, all the rest of it. So anyway, I use RealVolve. The workflows in it can be kind of complicated, so I haven't played around with it, but it is a nice system. Yeah.
And what don't you like about it?
Well, I wish I wish it was a little easier to create, like, if I could create a custom automated email, for example, for birthday sendouts. You can do that. I just don't know how. And learning how to do that is going to take me time that I don't have. The generic stuff that's built in, the really like cookie cutter stuff, doesn't always sound great. We want it to always sound like us. We want to personalize what it's already providing. And that takes just extra time that I don't have. And that's the part of the program that I find is a little bit more complicated, working the workflows and creating custom automated email send out when something happens, even during a deal. So some of these CRMs will remind you that the inspection is coming up and to send an email to your client. And I find that there's too many fields in there and it'll send them stuff that's irrelevant. And that to me is not professional. It looks stupid. So fine tuning that is probably my biggest challenge.
I used to have that where I'd move a client to a new stage and it would send out an automated email, and I totally squashed that because I did that once and it was completely irrelevant to the client for that exact reason. And they called me like in a panic. I think I think I might have even accidentally moved them or something. And it was like, congratulations on your closing. And I was like, shoot, this isn't happening yet. And they called me thinking that their timing was off. So anyways, I squashed any like automated when I moved somebody to a new stage.
Right.
But I think you're touching on a good point here, like the complexity of the tool. And I think that there's probably a balance from a tech standpoint. Like they need to balance complexity with ease of use. And as complexity increases, ease of use goes down. If you've ever used a deeply complex CRMs, like if you've played around with Salesforce or something like that, it's just so complex. But I think a lot of times a lot of these tech companies are starting to look at this and being like, what is the agent using this for? And the ease of use is very important for us. But on that note, I'm curious, what's your daily structure like when it comes to CRM? Are you opening it up every day? Feel free to be totally honest. Are you opening up every few days? And what are you doing when you're in there?
Yeah, I would say it gets open once a day. There might be a day or two in the week where it doesn't, but it pretty well gets open every day. Whether I'm adding a new client or lead or I'm checking on it. So yeah, generally I just love it because it shows me everybody that's in my real estate world, right? And I just like to see that. And I like to be able to go through my list, and even if it's not automated, going through that list and being like, okay, who haven't I actually touched base with? Oh, that was a guy I met at an open house. Didn't put him on any kind of campaign, but I've got his email. Maybe I'll just send him a quick shot. So I think it's just good to keep that personal element in there, or sorry, that human element in there, even when it comes to your following up with your database. I just think it's so important to see a snapshot every day of everybody that's in your real estate world, and being able to tidy that up. And I think that's part of what we can move into talking about is it's about nurturing this thing, right? So if there's clients we haven't dealt with in months and months or years and years, where do we put them? How do we keep our CRM relevant?
Yeah. So let's unpack that. How do you keep it? So you're in there once a day or so, pretty well every day, except for the odd day, which I think is probably more than most agents. And honestly, when you get to that level, when you're in it every day, you don't have to be in there for more than like 5-10 minutes. Like you're exactly in there and you're just, and honestly, it's also a stress reliever because once your CRM is clean and you go in there and there's like no follow-ups, holy, does that feel really good? But maybe walk me through some of that organization that we were getting towards there.
Yeah. So I think it's about going through your list, and depending how you've categorized or segmented your client base, which clients are have perhaps opted out of your newsletter, which ones have opted out of any communication, and putting those in a separate thing, and keeping the ones that are most current. I like it because mine has a calendar, so I like to go in there and look at how many birthday cards do I got to send out this week. So that's partly why I go in there almost every day, because I might forget. So I think, categorizing it based on what the clients need, what transactions are happening, it just gives me a snapshot of the whole business, right? And that's why it's important that I go in there, regularly.
Do you have your pipeline in there too, like deals that your buyers you're currently working with, sellers that are listed?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And that overview I find to be very, very valuable as well. Like, especially even if you're dealing with one deal right now, let's say, as your business starts to scale up and you're juggling 5, 6, 10 deals at a time, things get lost. And that, just having that view, that overview is totally key. One thing you mentioned though is people that unsubscribe from certain things. And one trick it's not really a trick. I never look at unsubscribes because it makes me feel bad. I just don't look at it. I just don't. Yeah. Because in a sense, I tell myself, it's the same thing, whether it be real estate related or even rev related. If anyone was ever to unsubscribe, I would never know, by the way. So I never check that, because in a sense, I kind of just, if you don't want what I'm sending you, I don't want you to get it. Like, you don't, in no way do I want you to get, a monthly market report if that's not something that you want to get. It's not a personal attack on us. So maybe this is just for everybody else that's listening in too, it's not an attack when somebody unsubscribes from an email newsletter. It's just some people have very, very strict rules with themselves as to what they let come in by way of email newsletters. We all get inundated by them. So I've just learned to kind of separate myself from that. And my trick is I don't look at it, because as soon as I do, I'll start to overthink it. What did I say to that person? Did I say something? I start looking at my texts and things like that. And I'm just like, this is serving nobody, and it's not a good use of time. So I just suggest, like, as people unsubscribe, just let them unsubscribe. It's totally fine. It's never anything personal.
You don't go chasing them afterward. But I think just knowing that, okay, I don't need to, if you've been spending effort and time and you're noticing that they're drifting and you're not able to bring them back. I mean, we talk about it in Rev, just how to do the breakup emails, I in fact had to do one just about a week ago, just, so you want to track both the good and the ugly and stuff within that, right?
Totally. Breakup emails. And maybe just in case somebody hasn't heard the term before, what's a breakup email?
Oh, Mike, you're probably better apt to answer this than I am. But to me, it's simply put, it is what it sounds like. So it's, you followed up, you've done a process whereby you've tried to nurture that client, that lead, and you're getting no response. And after multiple attempts, you're basically being very frank and saying, this is the final attempt. I don't want to bother you, but of course, this is the last time I'm going to send this out. All the best, and so on. And that's exactly what it is. I think. It's an important email. It's probably one of the hardest ones that I've ever had to write, because you just always have hope that whoever it is gonna turn around and say, no, wait, Jeff, I'm looking to buy a house. I've just been away on vacation or something, or extended like leave for the last year and a half or something. But it's an important thing, because sometimes people are just they're not wanting to lose face in front of you and say, actually, we've got another agent, or we've or whatever the case may be. And so just letting them go free is, I think, a good thing. So it's good to nurture that within the CRM.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a breakup email it's so powerful, I think, both for them and for us, because we send this email that's basically stating that we don't want to clutter up. That mine basically says, I don't want to ever clutter up anybody's inbox. Just wanted to reach out one final time. And then I say, my subject line is closing the loop. And I say, if I don't hear back, no problem, no hard feelings. We'll close the loop here. Best of luck with your search, or something along those lines. Yeah. And it's such a powerful email, because if you receive it and you're like, shoot, I wasn't responding to Jeff, they're going to respond right away. But if they receive it and don't respond to it, and if you can tell that they've opened it and read it, it's almost freeing for us in a sense. Like, we can be like, okay, let's move this person to another stage. Let's move this person out. We don't have to be focusing the time and B, even the mind space on this individual anymore. And I think sometimes we think, we should never move them out. But the breakup email, you don't want to use this after, like, you send 2 emails. Yeah. Generally speaking, like, most most people in marketing will say like it requires 8 attempts or so to actually get a person. So we need more than that number of attempts. But once we've done that,
Yeah.
I honestly have, I mean, it does happen from time to time, but after I've tried to reach out to you about 8 times and you haven't responded once, there's a pretty low likelihood you're going to transact. Maybe you will, and maybe that goes to a drip campaign. But generally, I love the breakup email because it either sparks interest out of them, or it just closes a loop, and I can move them out.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to get too much off topic. I know with the breakup emails, but the one of the things that Chris Voss talks about in his negotiating book, right, is get them to say no. Get them to say no. So if you literally, and we do it in negotiating even with deals, right? If you basically are saying this is the last email you will get, all the best. You want them to say no, don't do that. I am ready. If they don't do that, you know for certain that this is very likely not going anywhere. So I think it's good just psychologically to do the whole this is a no, right?
Absolutely,
I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely powerful. Any other thoughts around CRMs before we close the loop here? It's not a breakup. It's not a breakup email.
You break it up with me, Mike? Jeez.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You're stuck. You're stuck with me.
No, I think overall it's just the two pieces that are most important is this relationship nurturing, this customer relationship management piece, and your transactions. So having your transactions even flowing through it, so that you can see what your goals are. You can see a lot of these CRMs will show you how your year went. What months were you most busy? Like mine shows sales volume every month. It shows when I had so many deals. So I think between the business side and the relationship side, together, it's just a really important tool. And if you start it right away as a new agent, as you scale up, it will always and forever be an important part of what you do. And you will find yourself making time for it regardless of how busy you're getting, or you'll end up hiring someone to help maintain it for you. But it will be an important piece right from the start. Super important.
Such a good point. And on the point of hiring people, like I've multiple times in my career, I have to say, I've let my CRM go, and I've opened it up and just been like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to even attack this? You can hire people off of like Upwork or Fiverr. I've hired somebody before and she goes into my follow-up boss and cleans it all up. And I kind of I send her a list of the deals that I had done over a period of time and say, I haven't touched this in this period of time. And there's people that will actually go in $150 and they'll like clean up your CRM, and then you're ready to go. But I mean, this is a great time of year. The last thing that I'd probably just state around this concept of the CRM, and I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, but this whole concept of things in our day-to-day life that are important but not urgent. So when we're thinking through that whole Eisenhower matrix, and we have urgent and important, I think anything that's urgent and important, we're going to get done. Like I get urgent and important done because I have to, but then there's not urgent but important. And that is the category where like truly all the money is made in real estate. And the CRM is important, but it's not urgent. And because of that, it can very easily slip, but that's also where a lot of the success can be had in real estate.
Yeah, really well put. That's a you're absolutely right. It's not urgent, but it is incredibly important.
Totally. Yeah. Awesome, Jeff. Thanks so much for the chat. Really appreciate it. If anyone would like to reach out, you can always reach us at revrealestateSchool.com. And then again, we'll put the Notion CRM in the show notes in case anybody wanted to have a quick peek at that and just look at the fields that we were to use and the sections that we were to use. Thanks again. Awesome. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next lesson.